All right, next question here. Count the number of digits in an integer, right? A function that takes an integer as a parameter and returns the number of digits in that number. Handle negative numbers appropriately. All right, so this is going to be not nearly as bad as the last question, but we're going to solve it similar to a question we had earlier. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to write a little function to determine if a number is a digit. All right. Or if the char representation of a one, for example, is that a digit? Okay, so um, you know what? Are we even going to need to do that? We don't even need to do that. Yeah, this is actually fairly straightforward. All right, so we're gonna just call this guy. It's gonna return an int, count number of digits. It'll take an int n as a parameter. Right? Now, ultimately, we want to convert this guy into a string. I think you're going to find that to be a very common problem-solving approach. Once you get into a string, you can work through it a lot easier. Now, you can do a mathy thing here and divide it by 100, divide it by 10, divide it by 1,000, and kind of whittle it down, but you don't need to. So the first thing I'm going to do here, since I'm going to ignore any negative numbers, it says handle negative numbers appropriately, which means don't count that as a digit. I'm just going to ask the question, if n is less than 0, n is equal to n times -1. All right. So once we get to this line right here, n is now definitely positive. All right. Then we're going to say string s is equal to toString of n. I think that's how the function was, to underscore string. We'll fix it if it's not. So that'll take whatever this number is and give it to us as a string. Then we're just going to return s.length. How many characters are in that string? All right. So we'll come up here. We'll say int answer is equal to count number of digits. And we're going to give it 1, 2, 5, let's say. We'll do a C out on answer. And so obviously this should give us a 3. There's our 3. I'll just throw a couple more numbers on there. What is that? I should 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's our 8. If it's a negative number, it's going to handle this. It's still going to give us an 8. There's our 8. There's our 2. There's our 1. And if we take the negative off, all right. So there's count number of digits. Hopefully you're starting to see the power of getting things into a string. Strings give us a lot of flexibility. But I do want you to consider, if you remember when we've talked in class, I said that we're kind of on like the third, almost fourth kind of iteration of strings since the early days of C. So the strings we have today, the strings we're using, are very similar to the strings we have in all our other modern languages, which are significantly easier to work with than the older style strings. The main reason I don't use the older style strings in this class is it really doesn't give you value in programming with newer languages, understanding that. We're going to cover it through arrays after the midterm anyways, when we talk about char pointers and stuff. So you'll still get the background, but no sense pulling teeth just to use strings. All right. I will see you in the next video.